Alright, I'm just going to go over this engine and describe what I did to get it to run. This is a 22mm Mikuni carb, unmodified other than a small screw tapped into that lower vent port which goes into the top of the fuel bowl. I had to plug that off. In addition, I had to run an air line from the turbocharger into the top vent of the carburetor, which you can see here. Other than drilling out the main jet, it's otherwise unmodified. To get it to fit in this engine, I made a adapter plate out of 1/4 inch aluminum with a couple of 1/4-20 screws tapped into it, just deep enough so that the threads don't protrude at the back side of the plate that secure the carburetor onto the plate. It's just a regular RHB 31 turbocharger. The oil line runs off a tap on the back of the engine, on the back of the block, on the oil galley, which normally has a plug on it, but I just ran this copper line to the turbo. And this fitting also has a restrictor in it, which I actually made out of a 035 MIG welding tip. I just soldered it inside the fitting. Otherwise, the oil flow would be too great and it would cause too much restriction on the bearings on the turbo shaft. The oil return just comes down through the stainless line, although it doesn't have to be stainless, into the original dipstick hole, I guess you can call it, which just returns oil into there, and I have some sealant around the pipe so it doesn't leak. The exhaust manifold is made out of 1.25 inch outside diameter 4130 chromoly steel, which I just sectionalized into pie cuts. And all I did to make that was I just 3D printed a little saw guide just so I can get consistent 15-degree angle cuts, which I can just combine to get a 90-degree bend, and I can turn them around slightly just to get the angles correct. I made 2 elbows here, and I just cut it up the center and just welded them together just with a TIG welder. The drive is a 40 series torque converter, which happens to be underrated for this engine. It's only rated about 18 horsepower, as you can see. The belt is kind of showing some wear and tear there. It's just a aftermarket belt. Gear ratio on the chain is 0.6 to 1, so some rough calculations with the torque converter fully engaged and the engine at about 3,000 RPM, I should be able to hit speeds of about 81 miles an hour with these 10.5 inch tires. Just got this muffler quickly bolted onto here just so I can quiet it down for a fuel system on this. I'm just running a cheap little fuel pump I got from AutoZone. I think it's a number 12S pump. It probably only produces about 2 to 5 psi of fuel pressure, and it's enough just to keep the fuel bowl filled while it's running. As you can see, I just kind of hacked it on here with a test lead, and it can just run like that, and it never overflows or leaks out. So the float valve in the carburetor must be enough to hold back the pressure. I still have the original pulse pump in there, although it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there as a check valve, basically. I did advance the timing of this engine by simply removing the keyway from the crankshaft and rotating the flywheel forward about 5 to 10 degrees forward in the crankshaft just to advance the timing in it. And that's really helped it to run a lot smoother throughout its RPM range. I would say that this turbocharger only produces about 2 to 5 pounds of boost at most. I can hear it spool up, and I can definitely feel a difference in the power output of this engine. I would say that this engine is now producing about 25 to 26 horsepower. I would like to get a bigger cam for it. I'm going to go ahead and start it up now so we can listen to it run and at least run at idle. So I'm just going to pull the choke up, and I don't need the fuel pump running, but I'll turn it on just to prime the fuel bowl a little bit more.